while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Timok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people when this classic Bible teaching, hey, 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 motivation.
I'm returning to Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for mental health and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No! 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney+, Hulu, ESPN+, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment! Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Can I get the now bar, please? $1. Have a good one. Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, joined by special guest co-host Charles Edmond. Guest menu looks like this on today's show. Charles Edmond, of course, joins me for the duration of the show, unless he gets tired and he wants to get off before then. Coach Vann Pettaway in hour number 2. And then last but not least, Brandon B.J. Jones. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. SWAC Media Day 2022 will be aired live on ESPN 3. That is interesting to say at least. Very interesting. Prairie View A&M, congratulations, wins the 2021-2022 Commissioner's Cup. Congratulations to Prairie View A&M. Where did your school fall in the rankings? We'll give you the list very shortly. And then last but not least, very interesting, the NCAA panel/committee approves awarding a technical foul for flopping in men's basketball. No, they don't flop, do they, in collegiate basketball? Well, we know they do it in pro football. But hey, NCAA, their committee, they look to make some changes. Flopping. Now, you will be awarded a technical foul if you're accused of flopping. We'll see how that will affect the college basketball game. And then just to have a little fun, of course, SWAC Media Day coming up very shortly. It'll be here before you know it. What are the predictions of the teams? And I'll kind of look in the chat room to get your comments, and then we'll talk about some of those. But with that being said, I really believe that previous champions usually get picked in the predictions for the following season. So, will Jackson State come out of the East? The prediction or the finish, or will Prairie View come out of the West? To me, the West is not a sure thing. But of course, we'll have some fun with that in what they quote, the dog days of summer. But I never really believe in that. There's always something to talk about, discuss, debate, and give your opinions on. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's another hot, humid weekend in my location, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. How about yours?
Yep, the heat is on, as the song says. We're going to get into the mid to upper 90s. Very little chance of rain over the next 10 days. So buckle up, hydrate. Something that I'm learning the hard way in terms of drinking water, not drinking enough of it. It's kind of affected me a little bit. So I would recommend everyone, especially during these times where it's hot and humid, if you got outdoor activities, drink plenty of water, water, water. Not as much sweet tea, sweet tea, sweet tea. That's what I've been doing, and that's part of my problem right now. I have a pretty good sugar addiction, and I'm trying to kick at this point in time. It's not easy, I can tell you that. But just drink plenty of water and hydrate and just stay cool out there.
That is good advice. Same here. Hot and humid, upper 90s. And I always talk about humidity. In some places, it's much more severe. There's only been a few places, one being Houston, I can remember, being in Florida, is equivalent to the humidity in South Louisiana. But hey, life goes on, and it makes you realize also that these student athletes, you come to camp now, you have to be in shape before you get there. In other words, it's a 12 months out of the year for all student athletes. So, kind of be careful. But Charles, SWAC Media Day, ESPN 3, Tiffany and Jay Walker, they're going to be on the broadcast. We saw them last year, but it's going to be an exciting time. You'll have the preseason predictions. What do you think?
I think that there's going to be a ton of storylines, probably more than we've seen in a while, especially the way that kind of the offseason cycle started, with the whole Saban and Deion Sanders thing back and forth. I think that's not going away. Obviously the SEC had their media days a couple of weeks ago. And so, they kind of cleared the air a little bit there. But then, you've got the SWAC. And what Coach Sanders has to say about it, I'm sure that's not going away, in terms of what Jackson State has done in a very short period of time and winning the East and winning the SWAC championships. On the Western side, clearly Prairie View has a new leader. Coach Dooley is at Southern. And I do agree with you that I think the Western division is a little more wide open, albeit I will predict that probably Prairie View is going to be predicted to win the West again because they won it last year. That's kind of how the voting goes. I do know as far as who votes, and that's a whole nother conversation, that's head coaches and SIDs vote. Members of the media do not have a vote in this process in any sport. And that's because of large part because of the head coaches. They decide who gets to vote for these preseason teams and postseason and all of that. So I think that's another whole topic that we can get into at another time. But I do think the way the SWAC kind of, does things and just of it. You expect Jackson to be predicted to win the East, and it's just my opinion. I don't know. I do think that the Panthers will be predicted to win the Western Division. That could change. I might be wrong about that, but just kind of the way the voting goes. Prairie View's got a new coach. They're going to have a new quarterback. A lot of things have changed. Some people would say, Southern. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Alcorn, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Grambling, you don't know who the quarterback's going to be. You may go back with Pine Bluff, maybe, even though they fell off the wagon, last season. I think the West is going to be more wide open and a little bit more controversial in terms of just who do you think is going to win the West. I think that's going to be more wide open and very much up for debate.
Well, you remember last year, of course, the Black College Sports Network will be at SWAC Media Day again, 2022. And let me say, I said Tiffany. I should have said Tiffany Green. I want to give the proper respect, so I apologize for that. Tiffany Green and Jay Walker on the call. Now back to SWAC Football Media Day. It's going to be interesting. I stated earlier that usually you know, the predictions that we've seen in most cases, not all, there have been a few exceptions. They're usually going to be the team from the previous season. But you know what? I think this year is going to be one of those exceptions. And now I could be wrong, but just an opinion. You talked about it. A lot of the teams on the Western Division side, they have new coaches. A couple of new coaches, and then also breaking in new quarterbacks, and that's in there. But then you look at the transfer portal and that effect of, on paper, some of the teams have brought in a good amount. Southern, Grambling, Alcorn State, not as much, but also going through the JUCO routes. So it's going to be interesting. I really believe that Prairie View in previous seasons would be predicted to come out of the West. And again, this is just predictions, prognosticators, SIDs, and coaches. But Charles, I just got a strange feeling that it's going to be someone else picked first. And at least, if not first, second place. And then you look at Southern, Grambling State, Alcorn. Alcorn's last year was their first year in the Western Division, a subpar record based on their standards, winning multiple Eastern Division championships. Then you have Southern with a new coach, new quarterback they're trying to break in. Grambling State in the transfer portal a lot. They're recruiting a lot, still recruiting. They're going to be breaking in a new quarterback, albeit they had a big announcement in the transfer portal, a young man from Syracuse that signed on, or at least committed to Grambling State University. So with all that being said, what will be the prediction coming out of the Western Division? I'm going to say it's going to be somebody else besides Prairie View. And I could be wrong, just my opinion. On the Eastern side, it basically comes down, I think in my opinion, it's going to be Jackson State, FAMU, probably coming in at number 2. Now, at the third spot in the Eastern Division will be very interesting. Alabama State has done a lot of recruiting. They've went into the transfer portal. They have a new coach. But then Alabama A&M. Will it come down to the Alabama State and Alabama A&M, Charles, for their prediction? Maybe I'm saying third. Alabama A&M. I'm going to say it right now. I think they'll be predicted to come in third, and then Alabama State fourth. Jackson State first, of course, and FAMU second.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the eastern side, I mean, clearly we all know it's Jackson State number 1. I mean, clearly you got Shedeur Sanders, you got Hunter, you got all that and more. I think clearly it's Jackson State's division to lose. I'm gonna, I made this prediction a few months ago. Don't be surprised if Mississippi Valley gets a little bit more love than probably a lot of people expect. What Coach Dancy's done at Valley has been outstanding. I mean, Coach Sanders visited Mississippi Valley and showed off their facilities, and he said he's going to try to help them and try to improve, the facilities, the aesthetics. I think Coach Dancy quietly has done a nice job there. They got a new athletic director that was announced early in the week. So I do think there's a lot of momentum there. I think Valley is going to surprise some people. Do I think they're going to win the East? Probably not. But are they going to finish higher than maybe a lot of people might assume and expect? I do believe that. Alabama State's got a first-year head coach, Eddie Robinson III. I mean, he still got to figure it out. Quill Glass is no longer at Alabama A&M, even though they've recruited pretty well at the quarterback position. They're going to have to get better there. The defense is going to have to really, be better. So I think there's some question marks there. You got Jones at Bethune-Cookman. I think Bethune-Cookman may be a little bit on the rise, and I think they have a little bit of ways to go. So I think in the East there's a lot of moving pieces, but I do think the surprise might be Mississippi Valley to me. I think what they've done, I think if they get any solid play at the quarterback position, I think Mississippi Valley will surprise some people. Do I think they'll win the East? No. But I do think they'll be much improved from what they were. Obviously, the administration is pleased with Coach Danson. They only won 3 games last year. And, you know, when you have that happen, in most cases, usually a 3-win coach doesn't survive another season. But I think they believe he's a young coach, energetic, a whippersnapper. And I do think that that program's on the rise. So look out for Mississippi Valley. I'm not quite feeling Bama State and A&M right now just because they got a lot of new pieces, whether it be a coaches, quarterback. It's still up in the air there. I would say Jackson State first and foremost, and I wouldn't be surprised if Valley finishes in the middle of the top half of the Eastern Division.
Well, you have a lot of confidence. And you know, one of the things a lot was said about Mississippi Valley State, much love to Coach Dancy, done a tremendous job. I understand that. Looking at their schedule, very tough, at least non-conference part. I often say this, they may be better, but the record may not indicate that, but they can be better. Last year, they gave everybody a tough time. Everyone knew they were in a battle when they came in there. I think they're putting the pieces together, but I still think they are another at least year away from making a significant move. But then Coach Maynard at Alabama A&M went the transfer portal route, kind of did what Jackson State did, turned over almost half of their roster. And so, you know, with the chemistry issue will be important for how well will they develop. They've got a tough schedule. And if you look at the majority of the conference teams, you know, Grambling State has a tough 3 games, Alcorn State. So I know you got to win that conference championship. That's the main goal. But teams can be better, but the record may not indicate that, particularly when you look at some of those tough opening games. And then some teams got a tough second week. Some teams got a tough ball game in week 0. So it's going to be tough. But back to Mississippi Valley State, I still think they're a couple of years away. I think they will improve. They will show improvement this upcoming season. They're going to be a tough out for everybody. But at the end of the day, I just think it's going to still take them a couple of more years, at least the next year, to make a significant improvement, or where you will see them move up in the standings in the conference. But everything is won on the football field. Predictions are fine. It gathers a conversation amongst, you know, hosts, sports talk hosts, fans, alumni, and boy, Charles, you see on social media, they're going at it. They're going at it already. And what I would just say, in my personal opinion, you kind of got to roll it back a little bit. You got to look and see what happens when summer school is over, how many players are enrolled in summer school, all the traditional things that you look at each and every year, the conditioning program. Some kids may have to, have some academic help and they need to go to summer school, but some may not need it, but they're there. The coaches like to keep them there around for the summer. And so they can kind of keep an eye on them, and then it goes into fall camp. But with that said, I'm going to start looking in the chat room and see what some of you feel about how the predictions is this. What do you believe, or how do you believe at SWAC Media Day the predicted order of finish is going to play out? And of course, you can add some other tidbits, your opinions as well. Charles, the SWAC Commissioner's Cup, James Frank Commissioner's Cup Award, Prairie View A&M, congratulations. 167 points, Jackson State, 150 points, number 2. Third, Alabama State, 146 points, 5. Texas Southern at 4th 121.5. Southern University, 5th overall, 119 points. FAMU, 6th, 106 points. Alcorn State, 7th with 99 points. Grambling State, 8th, 96.5. Arkansas Pine Bluff, 9th, 95 points. 10, Alabama A&M, 87.5. Bethune-Cookman University, 11th, 83.5. And 12th, Mississippi Valley State. Now, that's the overall points total. If you break it down as the Sadie McGee Barber Jacket Award, that's one on the women's side. Of course, Prairie View with 97 points. They were able to win the women's part. And as we turn the page here and look at the C.D. Henry Award, Prairie View won that with 70 points. 7. Charles, that means the overall athletic program in the conference, Prairie View A&M gets it done again. Southern University, overall, not well. Of course, Alcorn, Grambling State as well. And you can talk about resources, investment, coaches, and of course the student athletes. They all play an important part in there. But we have to give credit where credit is due. Prairie View A&M gets it done again.
Yeah, I really, a lot of people don't talk about the Commissioner's Cup, and that's a big deal, believe it or not. We don't talk about it that much, but just in general conversations and just a little scuttlebutt I get, at some of these championships when I talk to different ADs and people, these other conference schools, you do hear them talk about the Commissioner's Cup. It is a big deal. And so, and that's the totality of all the sports, how you do in the standings, and there's a point value to it. So Prairie View clearly was consistent in terms of their high finish and their high rankings. Of course, their softball program won the SWAC tournament championship. And so I think, for that program, you just look at, and I've been to Panther Stadium, the Baby Dome, their softball, baseball complex. You talked about resources. You talk about facilities. They have a very, very good track situation over there in the other facilities that they have at Prairie View. They're going to continue to get good athletes. They're going to continue to get the talent in just about every sport. So with that, you assume that they're going to be competitive as a team and they're going to finish high in the standings. I think all that kind of works together. You talked about Southern, you talked about Alcorn. Got a little work to do there. We got a new AD that's trying to, improve some things. And of course, for Southern University, Coach Roman Banks is trying to do what he can there. So I do think that, over a period of time, if you make that investment, if you improve your facilities, I think good athletes will come. The transfer portal athletes are looking for places to play. And I think we're clearly seeing that as far as the SWAC is concerned and getting quality athletes in every sport. So I do think it's a continued investment. And I think the Commissioner's Cup is a reflection of that. And I think for Prairie View, you're seeing, the results of their hard work over there.
Yeah, because let's just be honest. Most people, they think about football, basketball, and baseball. Football, at least number one. Basketball and baseball in respective orders. But this award is for the overall athletic program. And, my personal opinion, yeah, I'd like to win every doggone sport as a Southern alum. But is that realistic? At one point, Southern University won maybe 6 or 7 in a row. And now just a few Southernites that I talked to, they're kind of concerned. They want to look at just where the athletic program is. Of course, now you've got a new football coach. You have some consistency with Coach Roman Banks, the director of athletics. And by the way, I've been trying to get him on for the last couple of weeks. I have not been successful, but I will continue to try to get him on. But you have to have, of course, good leadership in the athletic department. Also, good staff support. A lot of times we talk to the director of athletics here on this show, but what about his or her support staff? That's important. It's a tremendous asset to have a good staff around you. So Prairie View is getting it done, and this is in spite of not getting football championships every year. Baseball, they came close last year, but Coach Eric Dooley making it to the SWAC championship was not successful. Back to Southern, I guess you could say baseball was probably the best sport as far as finishing. They made it to championship game, didn't win it, but they're the back-to-back previous 2 years of winning it. So, we've talked to Coach James last week and the week before about baseball and the investment that all institutions in the conference need to make in that sport, that program, because as far as opinion-wise, it can really do well outside the conference. And so that's something you can still look at. But Southern Knights are kind of a little uneasy, I guess, about the overall athletic program at Southern University. And so how do you improve? Kind of looking at some of the numbers for us budget-wise, it's not one of the lower budget athletic programs in the conference. So where do they need to go to kind of improve? So I think they're saying just kind of look at overall, and even starts at the top with Coach Roman Banks. So that is interesting. But Charles, hey, once again, Prairie View A&M gets it done. I'm looking in the chat room right now, and just want to acknowledge some people: Chuck Hunt, Jamar Scott, also Theo Quest, Michael Cavalier. Appreciate you watching. Donald Fleming, also Flemon from he says from Hot Springs, Arkansas, and Willie Bowden. Pick out something else, and we didn't mention it, but of course, big news, historic, a lot of respect. Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter on the cover of the June 22 Sports Illustrated, and that's been a lot of conversation as well. It gives notoriety to HBCUs, and so congratulations to Coach Sanders and Ashley Robinson, their whole staff. They're getting it done, and also there's been a lot of discussions about social media and how they use that to help their brand, get Jackson State out there. But let's just be honest, Coach Sanders, he's well known, so it's going to be acknowledgement with him, of course, by himself. But now being the head football coach at Jackson State, it brings notoriety also. Charles, your thoughts on Jackson State and Coach Sanders on the cover of Sports Illustrated? Now, it's not the first, as some people stated. Alcorn State, Aaron McNair, the late, great Eddie Robinson at Grambling State University on the cover. So you acknowledge what's going on now, but also, because I'm a historian, a history major, believe it or not, but you give recognition to the historical aspect of it's not the first time that one of our institutions have been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And you acknowledge that along with acknowledging Sanders and his son and Travis Hunter on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to Jackson State Athletics, Coach Sanders, and that whole program there. I mean, it's not the first, and I did read the social media post, and if you're a fan, you just love your team, and you think you're the first to ever do it. I mean, I get all of that, but we know the facts are the facts, and they are not the first, and they won't be the last. It will happen again. But I think that piece ties into what we just talked about in terms of the Commissioner's Cup improving facilities, when you get the notoriety of a program, when you're on the cover, when your head football coach is on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Of course, football is the driver for all of our athletic programs. So you see what Jackson State has done. You see what Coach Sanders has done. And he hadn't even been on the job 2 years. So you look at improving facilities. You look at the fact that they've got a new sand pit for the football facility, improved locker room, improved meeting room, turf on their practice field. And Ashley Robinson told me at the softball tournament, they're going to enclose that practice field. It's not going to be a full structure, but it's going to be where you can have a kind of indoor-outdoor practice facility. That's coming. Then they're also shooting for a new football stadium at Jackson State. Now that's going to take a lot of heavy lifting. There's a lot of history there in terms of making sure that happens. It's going to be a while, but their athletic programs are increasing in terms of the infrastructure. I was told by a Jackson State coach not too long ago that architects have been on that campus to improve the baseball facility, the softball facility, and the other athletic facilities. The Peyton Complex has been improved. All those aesthetic type things help, bring more recruits in. And then you've got the transfer portal, players looking. You got NIL possibly that could help tie all that in. So those are the types of things, and the notoriety, the Sports Illustrated stuff. I mean, I remember when the late Steve McNair was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, how our athletic program was getting coverage from all over the country. And that helped us in terms of the notoriety of Alcorn State University. It helped enrollment. It also helped the athletic program. So I think those are the types of things that kind of help drive the improvement of the athletic programs. And so I think what you're seeing on social media, in my opinion, is that when fans kind of throw a little shade at Jackson State, for example, I think they're a little envy and jealous in a way, because they're getting a lot of the hype and a lot of the heat. But then I think some of it is anger at maybe their schools, because you're seeing what they're doing. And then whatever school you follow, you're like, you won't say it on social media, but deep down inside, you're thinking, what is my school doing? Or what is my school not doing? Because you see what Jackson's doing. So in order to get those type of athletes, what can we do to catch up or at least stay in the conversation? So I think all of that is tied together. Commissioner's Cup, getting more talent, improving facilities, improving enrollment, which generates more revenue for the schools, which athletics will get some of that, which will help the athletic programs. So I think all this is kind of tied together. And right now, I mean, we talk about Jackson State because, we've just been talking about them, and they're going to continue to be in the conversation until, someone knocks them off, or unless we all kind of work together as a conference, individually as a university, to kind of help improve our own programs, whether it be Alcorn. We got a new AD. You just talked about Roman Banks in terms of what Southern's doing. They got a big bond issue, I'm sure, that's coming down the line, in which facilities will be improved. So I think it's a lot of conversation, but there's only so many schools that's talking the talk and walking the walk. And I think that's kind of what's driving the whole social media anxiety. I think it's also driving the social media frustration for some of our fans as well.
It's very interesting because, I know you look at social media. I do, many of our colleagues. And, I always say you be classy about certain things. You congratulate Jackson State. But then to your point, when you look at what your university is doing. I've had several ADs on this show, and I think everyone's is going to have to step their game up. Some are in a better position than others to do that. Some will have to have a long-term game plan. If I can, let me just read a couple of comments from the chat box. Michael Cavalier says, when is the last time Southern won the Commissioner's Cup? Big disappointment in the athletic program as a whole. And then Willie Bolden says, please look at JSU athletic budget at the end of the day to see if it impacts the real bottom line, or is it just impacting football? Interesting. Notoriety. Charles, that's interesting. To your point earlier, What can the institutions do? Of course, you got to be transparent. Transparency in your athletic department. If you're short in some areas or short overall, uh, can your alumni help? And I believe they can. Um, Corporate sponsors, social media, you can use that to help as well. But back to my original point, be classy on social media. And sometimes it kind of gets, rough. You use the word envy. Um, I can see that. And the bottom line is, as much as certain institutions are doing well, Jackson State as well, you're still going to have to play it out on the football field. For example, South Carolina State, we go back to Celebration Ball. No one gave them a chance at all. Could we say that South Carolina State, a very tough old school coach, but he didn't have, what's the word I'm looking for? Didn't have the persona like a Coach Sanders. They felt slighted and all week, and they came out and they took Jackson State to the woodshed, good old fashioned butt whipping. They've had financial problems at that school, but they were able to win that football game. Now, I'm sure if you look, winning that Celebration Bowl, I bet you that South Carolina State, their enrollment picked up without looking at the numbers, but that was a good thing. The rest of the institutions in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, I don't think they're going to sit back and say, well, woe is me. We can't compete. How can we compete against what Jackson State is bringing to them? But I just think that makes you more determined. Look, I talked about facility upgrades at Southern University all the way back to the Coach Pete Richardson era. And Southern slowly got some things done. As great as Coach Richardson was for Southern University football, he did not get a chance to see the facility upgrades. But I love how now Southern University is incorporating Coach Richardson back with the athletic department. They consult with him on different projects and what have you. But to say that they can upgrade still, yes, they can. And they need to do that. Your institution, Alcorn State University, in a rural area, but guess what? Football, rich tradition. Baseball, rich tradition. Former Rat McGowan. Basketball, David Whitney. I know they were in a different time, but I think Alcorn may be in a situation that's a little tougher, say, than Southern University because of all the rich tradition that they've had, that they can rely on that. They're in a rural area. Beautiful campus, by the way. I've been on it several times. I have to hear that chant, Charles, the SWAC championship. Do I go back to that? But, a new AD, and I'll send the invite to him to come on. It's now you're in a tough time. You're still trying to come out of a pandemic. Prices, and he was talking about that on social media. Ticket prices, specifically football. I'm willing to say Southern University has the highest ticket prices in the conference. So you have to pay for more services. So all of this is in there, social media, NIL, all of that, the coaches, the support staff, what we talked about, all of that is, everybody has to be on the same page. But back to you, Charles, Alcorn State. I mean, you can't talk for the AD or answer for him, but guess what? Alcorn State can do better, and they'll have to do better.
Yeah, one of the things that, I did an interview with our new athletic director a few weeks ago, Renoy Dideau, as well as Fred McNair. They were both, we did an interview with both trying to promote football, obviously, and trying to promote our new season ticket rollout, which came out the week of that show. And prices have increased. Parking prices have doubled in some cases. But he kind of explained how that took place. He went back and looked at over a 3-year period in which we didn't make the amount of money that was necessary, to sustain. So therefore, when that happens, you have to do something. And I think, for me personally, I don't chastise or criticize any other conference school in terms of what they have or what they don't have, especially what they don't have. Because I know most of the ADs in this conference, and I know most of the movers and shakers in this league. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's about willing and able. Are you able to do it? Or are you willing to do it? Some are not able, and that's just a fact. Now, I think most ADs just won't come out and play the woe is me card. I think they're going to try to work as hard as they possibly can. But some of this stuff is funded differently. Jackson State, with the improvements that they've made with the turf practice field, the Peyton facility upgrade, the locker rooms and the meeting rooms. You don't know how that stuff is done. You don't know if it was funded publicly with state dollars or if it was done privately through their foundation. And so that being said, when it's through your foundation, I think this is the case at every school, projects typically go at a faster speed. So if it's done with state dollars, it's a little bit slower because it has to be approved through various levels, maybe not as many levels on the foundation level. So I think that comes from obviously donations. We're just talking about Jackson State, but it could be any school in the conference, being funded through those private sources. So I think you have to take a look at that. And that's why, I'm just blessed and fortunate to be in a situation where I'm understanding and people are helping me understand how this process works, because it's not the same speed, not the same schools, not the same state. The way it is in Mississippi and the way it is in Louisiana, where you are, totally different process. So I think that's the other things we have to look at. And I think that's why, ADs kind of want to talk about it, but it's so convoluted and it's so much to where I don't think they want to confuse the alumni base with all the stuff that they have to go through in terms of why stuff is not happening, why things are happening at a slower pace. So that's why I'm not the kind to criticize, because I do understand, being at a state school myself, Alcorn State University, has to go through a college board and all that. It has to go through a lot of layers. And I think it's just probably the same way at other schools in other states, Texas Southern, Prairie View, maybe not as much at Prairie View because they're part of the Texas A&M system. But, I think, for me, you just have to take a deep breath, step back a little bit, and understand the process and let the ADs, and you've had ADs on your show, to kind of explain the process as best as they can, to say, hey, this stuff doesn't happen quickly. We love for our fans to donate and contribute to our foundation. That will help speed things along. But then you got to prioritize a lot of different projects. It just so happens that Coach Sanders at Jackson State, they're going above and beyond. A ton of money's coming into that program. Last year, they had 3 games in which they had over 50,000 at Memorial Stadium. Just think of how much money that they generated last year for football. How much of that trickles down to the other sports, I don't know. But football is making pretty good coin. So they can pretty much do what they need to do to improve that football program. And it's going to be even more this year, I'm sure, especially if they win again. So I think, for me, that's why I don't do that stuff on social media. I just think fans love their school, but I think they see Jackson State's doing this a lot quicker than what they probably thought would happen. Remember, it was 13 years between championships for Jackson State. 2008 was their last title. So, in that 13-year period, fans were roasting them. The James Bell era, the Harold Jackson era. I mean, they weren't very good for over a decade. Now, all of a sudden, you go from that to being almost on top of the HBCU world. They didn't win the Celebration Bowl. People roasted them for that. But heck, there's only been one SWAC team to win the Celebration Bowl. That's Grambling. We've been in it. We didn't get it done. So I'm not going to, criticize that aspect of it, even though a lot of people did when Jackson didn't win the Celebration Bowl. So I just think, we just need to take a deep breath, slow down, and understand that, hey, I think ADs in this league are doing the best that they can with what they have. Could it be better? Yes. Could it be worse? Yes. So you just have to step back, take a deep breath, let these ADs and chancellors and presidents do their work. They understand right now Jackson State's doing their thing, and now we have to do the best we can to try to keep up with the Sanders, if you will.
Well, that's interesting that you say keep up with the Sanders. I really believe that ADs, once again, if fans and alumni don't understand, some do, those who are particularly, I'm sure, have a business background, why not, again, be transparent and talk with them and let them know exactly what's going on, and you have that dialogue. I'm going to have an invitation to ADs to come on the show during the summer period. Really, to me, if you're transparent, that will help a lot of it. And people who would want to donate, if they see like an open door policy, then you can get a lot of things done. Now, Charles, before we go to our next guest, because we're at the top of the hour, and you talk about the Celebration Bowl. At one point, although Alcorn didn't get it done, but they're hosting the SWAC football title game for multiple years and Celebration Bowl appearances. I think financially that was a win-all for Alcorn State. Am I wrong about that?
It was a windfall, and on the surface, yes, you would assume that you're rolling in dough, but as I'm learning, as I'm figuring out that it's not necessarily what's coming in, but it's what you're spending as well. So you have to, and this is something that I didn't know probably until the last 7 or 8 years, when you account for expenditures in athletics, you have to account for the scholarships that you're giving out and how much those cost. I didn't realize that the scholarship pool is tied to that funding as well. So scholarships obviously is the cost of tuition for every student athlete. So you got 63 scholarships. You multiply 63 times the cost of tuition, whatever it may be. If it's $15,000 a year, that's factored into it. I didn't think it was until I was told by some people who are in there now. And it may be different at different schools, but I think that's kind of the way it works. LSU writes a check for $6 million to LSU Foundation, that funds athletics, $6 million check to LSU to fund those athletic scholarships. So I think it's kind of the same process. That's $6 million, folks, just for football scholarships. It's not, they're not exempt from paying for that student athlete's tuition. And I think it's the same way at all schools. It's just maybe funded a little bit differently. So I think the whole mechanism of funding athletics, I think that's what needs to be, probably explained a little bit more, but that requires a lot of explanation. And it's probably an all-day, 2-day thing in time of trying to get people to understand how it works. I think once that happens, it's something I've always advocated. And you've talked about it, if ADs break it all the way down to our alums and fans and supporters of all of our schools in terms of how it works, I guarantee you a lot of our fans will say, you know what, we got to do better. And I say we, supporters, donors, whatever the case, because when you break it down and you see how much money is coming in, going out, and how much is the net profit, if there's any, I think it'll be a better understanding. But we don't get a lot of that. I'm hoping one day we will. But as of right now, it's not there. And hopefully that will change so people will understand and educate. You always talk about that, Carlos, educating people. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of non-information out there. And I think we kind of, decipher all of that so we can all understand at all of our schools how it works. And I think you'll get a better picture, a more realistic picture. And then as a donor, as a supporter, you'll see, how you need to proceed from there.
Well, it's simple. Well, in layman's term, if you got more going out than coming in, you got a problem. From a budgetary standpoint, most households, the same thing. If you got more going out than coming in, then you're either going to have to cut some of that spending going out and increase your money coming in. But I still say it can go a long ways. And I know there are public records and board meetings where they put out the budget, but to explain it even more, as you stated, further, explain it, break it down, be transparent. Be transparent. We're going to take our first time out of today's show. The time is going fast. Appreciate everyone who's watching here at the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. When we return, we'll be joined by Coach Vann Pettaway. And one of our trending stories was now flopping. If you're accused of flopping, then you'll get a technical foul. Who better to ask that impact of that new ruling by the NCAA than Coach Vann Pettaway? We'll get into some NBA finals. Charles, my team didn't, since the last time that we talked, my team didn't make it. And I tell you what, Boston and Golden State are in a tremendous battle. Big win, 107-97 by Golden State last night, because they go down 3-1. I think it's over. I still say Boston, what they've had to go through, they're just a tougher physical team. Believe it or not, I think Boston's going to win this series. But anyway, we'll hold it right there. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be right back.
Troy, you work here? I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield. Never not working.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em. It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Tybok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier Blurred event in the universe. TheUrbanNerdCon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching say, make this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people and this classic Bible teaching, hey, 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 motivation.
You know, that's an appropriate song. We are one. And as we look at this conference, Black College Sports Network, we are one. We like to beat each other on the athletic playing field, whether it's baseball, tennis, basketball, what have you. But at the end of the day, we are one. And I have to remind myself of that. And of course, Charles, when I talk about that, everyone knows how I feel. I have much respect and love for Jackson State, but I love to beat them no matter what sport it is, because it's Southern and Jackson State. And when I see Coach Sanders in Birmingham, I'll do like I did last year. I'll shake his hand and say hello as I maneuver between his bodyguards, because he has bodyguards. So, hey, I'm looking forward to SWAC Media Day. With that being said, let me welcome Coach Vann Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. If you just tuned in for the first time, he's a former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Coach, good afternoon. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Carlos and Charles. I'm looking forward to this weekend. The Lord has given us another great atmosphere for us to be in, and I'm looking forward to enjoying the weekend.
Coach, before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about, rivalries, to the extent where you don't hate on your rivals. That's kind of been somewhat of a semi-theme on today's show, brought up by Charles Edmond. Alabama State is Alabama A&M's chief rival, correct?
Correct.
You wish them the best, but you like to beat them when you were coaching, I'm sure. But you like to beat everybody. But talk about putting those rivalries in the proper context. Even me, I'll have to take a whip and I'll have to go out to the timeout room, go in the corner, because you just mentioned Jackson State and that blue and white, put that paraphernalia in front of me, I'm like a mad dog. So how can I be calm about all of that?
Well, we as coaches, well, some of us anyway, we know that our fans expect us to win those rival games. It doesn't always happen that way. I'm a prime example of that. For the longest, I had a great winning percentage against Alabama State. But by the time Lewis Jackson got in there, he turned that thing around, and I ended up not having a winning record against our rival. But you try to put everything as a coach, you know that you want to try to please your fans, you want to try to please your players, and the biggest thing, you want to please yourself. So you say it's the next game, but you know it means a little bit more, and so you try to put more into it. You try to make sure that your kids are relaxed. You don't want to put the pressure on your kids. You keep that pressure on yourself. You want your kids to go out there and be free to play so that they can do everything. But the biggest thing about that rival game is, for me at Alabama State, all of the basketball coaches that I went up against, I like them. I mean, I like them as people. I started out, it was James Oliver, and then Coach Williams had him for a couple of years, and then Coach Spivey came down there, and then of course Lewis Jackson. All the people I just named, I like those guys. When we're not playing, when we're beefing it up at the Final Four or whatever meeting we're at, we're having a great time. It's just that when it's time for us to compete after that handshake at the beginning of the game, we going at it, and we wide open until the handshake at the end of the game. Now, once that's over with, we're back to being buddy again. I can remember the times that Coach Jackson and we met up at the Magic City Classic. I mean, we just happened to be tailgating in the same area. So what do? We socialize. Even though we're rivals, our two teams are getting ready to compete in football, but basketball is our off time, so we socialize. So I think the rivalry games are very important, but it's more important for our fan base. They put more into it than actually the coaches. Now, in a lot of places, I know especially in football, if you don't beat your rival, you're not going to last long. That's just the way it is. And because the fans and the alumni, they get on that president puts the pressure on the AD, and before you know it, you're gone. I've seen coaches that had winning records overall, but they had losing records against their rival, and that just didn't cut it. So it's that's a part of it, and we as coaches, we know to expect our fans to really want you to win. They want you to win every game, but they especially want you to beat your rival, and that's just a part of it. And if you don't understand that and don't agree with it, you shouldn't be coaching, because that's not going to change.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I think if me and Charles were ADs, I think most of the people will want to work for Charles, because they'll think I'm tough, but I'm not. I'm tough, but I'm fair. Speaking of Coach Pettaway and Charles, the NCAA Playing Rules Oversight Panel basically approved allowing men's basketball officials to assess Class B technical fouls to players who fake being fouled beginning the 22-23 season. If a player is called for flopping, as it's called, the opposing team would shoot one free throw. Previously, officials would issue a warning before assessing a technical foul in incidents judged to be flopping. The proposal came from the NCAA Men's Basketball Rules Committee. Now, Coach, we know in the NBA, I'm a pick here a little bit. In the NBA, they don't flop, so they don't flop in the NCAA, but basketball. But what are your thoughts on that? You like that rule?
I think it's a good rule. Yeah, I think it's a good rule. The NBA has had that rule for a while, and we're getting it in college. It's great, and it will keep people like me from assisting our players in taking a charge when it's not really a charge. Because I'm serious. We do a session twice a year during practice where we try to teach the guys how to take a charge and how to bail out before you take that full blow so you don't get injured. So that's not going to change. I think coaches will still attempt to show players how to take that charge, but not the full brunt of the lick, because you don't want your guys injured. I don't care who they are. You don't want them hurt. So if people want to know, yes, I taught my guys to fall down before they take the full blow, because I wanted them to be ready for the next play or the next game. I don't want you. To me, it's not worth it to stand there and take that full charge when you could be risking an injury. You're more important to me healthy than you are being an assistant coach. I got enough assistant coaches.
And guys, as I'm listening to Coach Pettaway talk, I can't remember name a specific player or players, but can you guys think of some famous floppers in the SWAC in recent memory? Because I know it's probably a different type of athlete back back in the day when you got the Purvis shorts and the Frankie J. Sanders. But who's good at taking that? I said flop, but that charge. Can you guys remember
Charles, I
anybody?
don't know if you can remember, but Desmond Cambridge, my point guard, he was a master at it. He did pretty good at faking that charge. So on my team, it was Desmond, and I'm trying to think who in the league. I'm gonna be honest. Jason Caples was pretty good too at it. Jason
Why
was
am I not
pretty
surprised
good.
about that?
Yep, Jason was pretty good because he used to do it in high school and he continued at Alcorn.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I would agree with that one. Ooh, man, and because I never really thought about flopping until the last few
Right.
years of being courtside, Carlos and Coach. I have seen cases where officials call a blocking foul on someone, and that coach is not happy about it. And I heard the referee says, "Coach, he flopped," and so I have heard that conversation. So I can't. It's hard for me to come up with a name. I do remember Jason Cable's a player. I would say yes to him. We had a guy, one of the better basketball players at Alcorn, named Brian Adams. I thought he did well in taking those charges. But I think now you're seeing in today's game the whole flopping thing come up because that's because of the NBA. I mean, you know how it works. It trickles down. You know, you see it a lot in the NBA, and now college players are doing it. Now the NCAA is trying to put a stop to it. I'm interested to see how that's going to work. But in terms of, I can't really think of a player, Coach, other than those two that I can think of, because most of our guys, most guys in this league play pretty solid defense to me. I mean, just man to man, straight up. I mean, I know they were trying to draw a charge, but flopping, that's a hard one for me to kind of process because I think most guys just want to get the charge.
Right. And Charles, if you think about it too now, to me, they're doing it more now off of the dribble. When they're defending the ball handler, a lot of guys now, especially in the NBA and it's trickling down to college, when that guard is driving that basketball, they will fake a push off. You know, a lot of kids, a lot of guys are doing that now. But to actually stand there and take a charge, you got some guard. There are some guys that will run from a charge. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to take a charge, period. I don't care who asked them to do it. They're getting out of the way. Yeah. Especially if you got a guard trying to take a charge on a 4 or 5, they're not going for it. A lot of them will bail out. And then if you see that in your scouting report, you tell your guys that if that defender's in front of you, go to the basket. Because they don't want that lick. They don't want the contact. Now, I'll tell you somebody that's in recent memory for me, Jefferson at Texas Southern. He was known for that, for getting out of the way. He would not take a charge. Remember little Jefferson? He would not take a charge. Yeah. He would bail out in a heartbeat. He'd give up the basket.
Yeah.
Wow. And you had it. This is in this is in the first half. You know, he's playing like he's got 4 fouls on him. Don't want to pick up the 5th foul, but he's doing it in the first half. Yeah, he's getting out of there.
Wow.
Now you had a guy, Coach, named Joe Johnson that played for you.
Yep.
That's a guy that I would think that to me would try to take a charge. He was muscular, tough, gritty, grimy. Would you put him in that category?
Right. Yeah, he'll stand in there. Now his body was so solid, he wasn't gonna bail out. He'll just stay in there and take it. Because he lived in the weight room. He lived in the weight room. But those guys that got that slight build, man, they're not. That's like pulling teeth to try to get them to take a charge.
Wow. You know, it's interesting as I listen to you guys talk about it. I can't think of anybody of recent memory in college, but I think on my NBA team, I want to say one of the stats where he led the league in taking charges, or he was in the top 3. Kyle Lowry, and he's built kind of solid. And I want to say maybe Drew Holiday. Maybe.
Lowry fakes a lot too now. You know,
Who's that?
he doesn't get the call. He bails out a lot. Lowry will. He fakes it. He's one of the fakers in the NBA now. But you know, it started with Bill Laimbeer. Bill Laimbeer was one of the first people to start with all this flopping and stuff.
The major flopper, but then he also got into a lot of fights, and you know,
a lot of his stuff was real too now.
Right, and so now as we kind of transition to the NBA talk, and I was watching one of the national shows, and I think Draymond Green had some comments to the 80s and the 90s where it was a different game. They were able to hand check, that was allowed, and I read a comment years ago that Scottie Pippen said, some of the players, the way the officials call it now, it would affect their game. But then there's a different style in the 80s and the 90s compared to now. And I will say this, Coach, and me and my best friend would talk about this all the time. We call it the European influence or an international, where it's not as, tough, it's more wide open. What do you think about that? The question is, who was tougher back then or now? But I think you can give your opinion, but you look at the facts. Just in my opinion, I think the 80s and 90s was a different type of basketball. No layup rule, all kind of stuff. And now it's kind of not as tough.
Right, because see, even on the collegiate level, you had no layup rules. We had it. My guys had it. If you let somebody come in there and lay it up or dunk if you want to, you're gonna pay for it the next day in practice. So that was just a part of it, and you could get away with it in that era. But now you cannot do that, man. Some of the fouls that those guys we used to deliver, they would be thrown out the game now. And when you go back to what you're talking about with this European basketball, that's a finesse game. They play finesse basketball. They're not into physicality. Those officials, that's why we were having such a hard time when it came to international play, because the guys could not adjust to the way the officials call the games. But now our game is going more toward the international style, and so the guys it's easier for them to make the adjustment. But yeah, for years we've always known that the European game was more of a finesse game. That's why you see all the stretch 4s and 5s from the European leagues. They step out. They're 7 foot or 6'11". They're not in the post. They're playing on the perimeter. They shooting threes. They shooting mid-range shots. Back in the day, if you were 6'10" or 6'11", you went from block to block, and that was it. And some of us would allow you to go up to the free throw line, but sometimes it was just block to block. That was it. You got maybe a foot off that block. Anything outside of that, you were out of your position, and we would call you to the carpet on that. So the game has changed. So the coaches have to change. Some of their philosophies have to change. You keep your core values, but you got to be able to make adjustments with the flow of the game. Now, the dribble drive, even if I was coaching today, dribble drive would not be part of my arsenal. I don't want to hold the ball that long. Let's put the thing in the air. That's the only way you can win it. That's the only way I can see you winning it.
Yeah.
My style of play would be more to what Golden State is doing. I'm not going to be the one pounding it inside. I want an up and down game. I want excitement. I don't want you holding on to the ball. The longer you hold on the ball, there's more of a chance of you turning it over. If I could get the same shot in 9 seconds that I get at 32 seconds, give me that quick shot. That's the way I see it. If that's your shot, we're going to take it because we practice that way. So it's no surprise when you get in the game, when you saw my teams play, we'll shoot early in the clock. But when it was time for us to work the clock, we had plays that could also.
Sound like and I saw several. Like I said, I only saw your teams when it came to the FG Clark Activity Center, but you can even, Charles, go back to the days of Larry Smith, a true power forward.
Yep.
Frankie J. Sanders, Avery Johnson. So it was excitement. And of course, Coach Joe, we know about him, David Whitney, some of the great coaches in the conference. It's others that you can name, but Coach, I guess working inside out days, it's not totally about that anymore. You work it inside, and then when the defense collapses in and you kick it out. I don't know if we'll see a mixture of that or even of that anymore. So interesting, but the referees won't give you a warning. They will assess you a technical foul, and I can see it now that it shouldn't cost a team a loss or give them a victory, but I can see that scenario happening in college basketball and in our conference this upcoming season, guys.
But see, the coaches will make an adjustment. They put the rule in. They'll start in pre-camp. They will start working with the athletes, let them know. I know we did every year before we ever started. We went over. We talked about the new rules. We brought in officials. We'll go over the new rules before we even start practice, so that you can start making adjustments during practice. You don't wait till the game. You get it done up front. That first week leading up to the first official day of practice on the court, we would bring in the officials, go over all the new rules, the things that they're even looking at for the future. We would go over that with the team present. And so our coaches in the SWAC will make the adjustment. They'll have their teams ready to play. They'll have their guys knowing that if they flop, it's a technical foul.
Well, I do think, Carlos, that one team that will probably have somewhat of an impact on this new rule is Alcorn, because Landon Bussey is a defensive-minded coach.
Yep.
And if you watch his practices, he wants his bigs to dig in there and take that charge. Yep. So if there's one team that could have a little bit of an impact, it could be our team, because of the way he coaches defense. Take those charges. Don't flop, whatever the case may be. So I do think Landon Bussey will have to make a little bit of an adjustment in terms of how he explains that to his players, because we're defense first. And so I think that's going to be, if there's one team that will have to make some adjustments, it's Landon Bussey and the Braves as far as this new rule is concerned. We'll see how it pans out, but there's one team I can think of in particular that defense first and where flopping comes in as a big part of their game. It's the Alcorn State Braves.
Yep.
Well, that's a great point, Charles. And right before you start talking about it, I thought about Coach Bussey, but as Coach Pettaway say, coaches, assistant coaches in practice, they will have to make the adjustment and govern themselves accordingly. Guys, NBA, the finals, they're ongoing, and I must tell you, Golden State had to have a must-win last night, and Curry just goes off, because if Golden State loses that ball game, I think it's over. I think Boston Celtics, and guys, Boston is, hey, look, they defeated the Miami Heat, my team, and I still go back to what their head coach said. What has prepared them for this moment? They went through Brooklyn, who everybody crowned them the champions in the paper, swept them. Then they got through Milwaukee, tough series, the best player arguably on the planet. And then Miami Heat, great team defense, maybe a notch below a young Boston Celtics team defensively. They were able to win on the seventh game on the opposing team's court. That is important to me. They've just went through the gamut, tough competition, and most of the prognosticators had Golden State winning it. But Coach, after assessing what I've seen in these 4 games, I favor Boston. I think Boston's going to take it. But now, Coach Pettaway, I'm sure you're going to let me know that that's not the case.
Right. I've been with Golden State. I'm going to stick by Golden State. Boston won the 7th game at Miami. They won't win a 7th game in California. I don't think Golden State will allow them to get out of there. I think that I go back to Golden State having so many weapons. Like, even though Draymond did not play a good game last night, you still had 3 other people that stepped up. Wiggins had an outstanding game, 17 points and 16 rebounds. We're not going to even talk about Curry, but Thompson showed up. He gave you 18 points. Then you had 14 from Poole. And that's without Draymond. You still win a game on the road in a tough environment. I do think, it's my personal opinion, even though he said they didn't, I think the fans got to Draymond. I mean, they start on him in warm up, and I just think that he lost focus. He lost focus in Boston. I think he'll be ready to play come Monday night. And then when you look at it, I think Boston probably played one of their better games, even though they lost the game. You look at how many people they had in double digits. I think they had, 4 or 5 people. Tatum had 20, 23. Smart had 18. Brown had 21. And then White came off the bench with 16. So they had balanced scoring. I think the biggest thing that's happening now, they have not made the proper adjustment on the pick and roll because they're still playing back when Curry has the basketball. And if you go under on a shooter, that's the green light for him to shoot the ball. My kids know that. I mean, on the collegiate level, if my shooter see a guy go under the screen, that's green light. Let's take that shot. Let's get it in the air. And right now, when they switch and they got Horford and those big guys, even Williams, coming out on Curry, they're not coming up. They're not hedging. They're not coming up far enough. And by them hesitating and being back in what they call drop coverage, he's letting it fly. Poole hit a big shot late in the game because of the same thing. They fell back. They dropped off of the screen, pick and roll, and he just took the shot and put it down. And I expect them to shoot the ball better and play better at home.
Let me read this one. It's just coming by Theo Quest. It's very interesting. This series has nothing to do with Golden State or Boston's defense. The only factor that matters is how Boston plays offense. Interesting point, but I still think with Boston, to me, it's all about defense. They've got young players, Jaylen Brown. They've got, oh boy, I'm having a middle-aged moment now, Tatum.
Tatum, yeah.
And you got Horford, and they're young, but I think defensively, of course, they're the better team. But now, is it the old saying, is it better offense or better defense that will win this series? I say defense.
Well,
but now Golden State's offense is pretty great as well. Go ahead, Coach.
Right. No. I was going to ask Charles. Charles, don't you think that right now Boston is playing great defense? It's just that Golden State is so versatile on the offensive end. They get mismatched. They get the matchups that they want on the offensive end, and they're exploiting it. And if Golden State wins this series, it's going to be because of their offense, not their defense. They can't play defense. Right. Boston is making them look bad on the defensive end of the floor.
Right.
So Charles, I was asking, don't you agree that if they win this series, if they win the championship, it's going to be because of Golden State's offense being better than Boston's defense?
Yeah, I think, obviously last night, Curry just went off. He had to have that type of game. There was a question mark of whether or not he was even going to play. That was quickly squashed, and he had a 40-plus piece. I am concerned. I had Golden State winning this series, but I'm concerned, Coach. I'm concerned about the fact that Golden State cannot play defense. And I'm also concerned about the lack of post play defense and offense by Golden State. I mean, you look at what Williams has done, and you look at the bigs of Boston, how they can shoot threes and go to the rack. Jaylen Brown. I mean, Golden State just, to me, defensively can't get stops when they need stops. Curry just went off, and the shots that he made, I think, were just deflators. And then in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, Boston became a jump shooting team last night. They didn't even try to take it to the rack. I mean, and I think
that's not their style.
Boston played at Golden State's pace the last 5 minutes of the game. All I saw from Boston was jump shots, threes. They were making those threes early, but late they weren't. And so I think if it's a track meet, I think Golden State can win it, but I'm concerned about the lack of height rebounding. And I think Draymond Green, not playing for a 4-minute stretch, Steve Kerr had to make a decision because Draymond Green flat out is not getting it done. Everybody's calling him out, and he just is not getting it done. Now, he finished with 5, 6 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists. He was solid the last 3 minutes of the game, and he came up with some big plays. But I'm concerned, though, because defense wins championships. And at some point, if Curry doesn't get 40, if Poole doesn't get 25, if they just don't have a good shooting night and Boston's on defensively, I'm just concerned. I'm just concerned a little bit. I mean, I love Golden State. I love offense. I'm with you, Coach Pettaway, what you talked about earlier. I love the three-point shot. I love a lot of scoring. But at some point, you got to get some stops. And Golden State hadn't been able to get that in the games that they lost.
Right. And Charles, I think that Golden State's offense, when you all mentioned the fact that Boston started shooting the jump shot, I think that was because in the back of their minds, they felt that the only way that they were going to win the game or stay in the game was for them to match 3 for 3. And that's why, to me, they were shooting all those jump shots. But their game is predicated on them getting some paint touches, and you can do that off the dribble. See, a lot of time when people hear the term paint touches, it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to feed the post. As long as you get in the paint, you can create shots for other people, whether it's a dump down on the lower block or it's out to the three-point shooters. And what Boston does a very good job of, when they penetrate, they're looking to throw opposite to that three-point shooter who's already spun it up. That's how Williams gets the shots. That's how what's the other guy? The other shooter they have on the floor. In fact, a lot of times they're making that play to Brown. He's spotting up for the three. So I think that Golden State's offense put so much pressure on them that they reverted to shooting the threes to try to match what they were doing. And you were right about Draymond. Draymond had 9 rebounds and 8 assists, but he only scored 2 points. And I mean, he missed some point blank shots. I mean, we call them bunnies. He missed about 5 bunnies. So he's not locked in like he should be. But they still won a very important game.
Right. He's more of the facilitator. But, Coach, is it also when Golden State's on offense, I know you got explosive players like Curry and Thompson. I still think he's not the old Thompson, but it's almost like you're playing 4 on 5. Albeit you got explosive scorers, but I think Draymond needs the threat of scoring, and then when he gets the opportunity, he's got to get it. He's got to score some points. So it's almost like playing 4 on 5 defensively. And Horford, to me, is not the traditional 5 or 4, whatever he's playing. He's kind of more of that European style. He can go out and hit threes. He gives you good defense down in the post. But it's going to be interesting. I'm pulling for Golden State, but I think Boston's going to win it.
Right. See, with Horford, when Williams is on the floor, Williams is at the 5, and Horford becomes the stretch 4. Yeah, he'll and he can stretch the floor, and that's how they find him by getting in the paint, and all he does if he sets the screen, he is pick and pop. He just steps out and they're waiting on him. They're looking for him, and he does not mind taking a three, whether it's a corner three or the top of the key. He's deadly. He's keeping Boston. He has kept Boston in this series because he's played well. He has used his size to his advantage. He's crashing the glass. He's giving them paint points. He's scoring for them. And then, man, Williams, you know, when this kid was at Texas A&M, man, a lot of people thought he was making a mistake leaving. Man, this guy can play. He plays with a lot of energy, and he comes out of nowhere to block shots. He's a tremendous athlete, and his athleticism is really showing up this year. And this kid has a bright future. He has a bright future.
Golden State has no answer for him. Zero. Golden State has no answer for him whatsoever. And that's what was surprising in the last 5 minutes, even though I agree with you, Coach, they were trying to match point for point because of the threes. But when Boston dumped that ball inside, when Horford was posting up, even though he could shoot the three, when they got it in the win, and Golden State hadn't been able to box Williams out yet. I mean, he was over the top. I mean, that is a nightmare matchup for Golden State. I don't know if they got to go with Kuminga, if they got to go. They got to get some more beef in that post. I think even going forward for Golden State, they got to get taller and more athletic in the post. Regardless of whether they win this thing or not, Golden State has to get a little bit in the post, I think, if they want to get to where they want to be in the future.
Right. I think in the offseason, I think they're going to address that in the offseason. You're going to see another big come to Golden State. Watch what I tell you.
Yeah.
Because now, you know, Wiseman is out, and I don't think they can really depend on him because he's injury prone.
Right.
You know, I put him in the category with Williams down in New Orleans. You know, you don't know if you're going to have him. You don't know if you're going to have him. So I expect Golden State to address that. But in the meantime, in order to win this championship, their offense is going to have to be in high gear in order for them to come up with 2 more wins. They got to be in high gear. Number one, they cannot lose at home. If they lose this game Monday, it's over with. It's over with. They will not get out of Boston. I think the governor, the mayor, and everybody else will make sure the Golden State does not get out of Boston.
On that note, next week, Coach, we'll see where the NBA Finals is at as far as wins and losses. Also, next week, the teams that fell short. Get your perspective on what they perhaps need to do to make that next step. And I'm going to be interested, and I'm going to warn you now. Be brutally honest about Miami, because I'm hearing this Bradley Beal conversation. Somebody's going to have to go. Something you said last week. You don't really break up that team. You just add a piece because you're that close. And I'm still trying to recover from losing Game 7 on your home court. Miami has a terrific record of winning that game, and they didn't. So you can't overreact. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And, Coach, you and your family continue to stay safe and stay blessed, and we'll talk with you next week.
Thank you. You all stay safe, and God bless. Have a great week.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to take a time out. When I come back, we started the show a little later today, so we got an extra minute. So we're going to make sure we give B.J. Jones his appropriate time. I've got 12:47 Central Standard Time. So next guest joining us will be Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. Of course, a lot of polls, you've seen them coming out now. It's great for conversation. We want to ask BJ about his poll, but take a look going into fall 2022. Who are some of the teams to watch out for? We're going to ask him, who's going to get picked coming out of the SWAC conference at Media Day? We'll be back. You're watching The Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
I'm returning to Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being heard.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for mental health and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
We're all about feeding your family with meat and plant-based protein that's good for the planet, good for you, and just plain good. That's all the protein you need, all on your plate.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Well, Charles, I see you like that. You'll get a chance to come
Oh,
to A.W. Mumford Stadium again. Uh, Remember last year's ball game? Boy, Luke Jackson, last second field goal. He could have nailed that from 50 plus.
yeah.
Got the old monkey off the back, or the
Yeah.
boogeyman, maybe a better term to use. Welcome back to the Coles Brown Show here on the Black College Sports Network. We're hoping to connect with Brandon B.J. Jones. You know, he's been blessed to have another addition to the family. So I'm thinking maybe the new addition may have something to say about BJ maybe coming on the show. I don't know if that's the case, but if he pops up, then we'll have him. If not, we'll carry on. Yeah,
Well,
BJ just said
Carlos, I put a post
he's
on
trying to get in there
Facebook.
now.
There's only 11 Saturdays away from week 0. So time is ticking away. Before you know it, we'll be kicking this thing off.
Yeah, it really will be here before you know it. Summer camps, a lot of the student athletes on the high school level, they're visiting camps. And by the way, I'll just like to toot our horn a little bit here at the Carlos Brown Show. We were able to sponsor 3 student athletes, one from Woodlawn High School, defensive back, 2 players from Bel Air High School, all 3 locally from Baton Rouge. We were able to sponsor Coach Eric Dooley sending those athletes to the camp, and we hope to be able to do that in a bigger fashion next year. You got a lot of 7-on-7 camps going on. Southern University, I'm thinking most institutions in the conference, they are still entertaining recruits. I know Southern has a big weekend this weekend and next weekend and the next weekend. Specifically, O-linemen and defensive linemen is what they're looking at. We kind of talked, Charles, earlier in the show. Transfer portal is still important. We had Coach Hughley on last week, the new men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. I asked him about it, and he is looking to have balance. He still wants to recruit the high school student athletes to his program. You also look into the transfer portal to fit in some pieces. So you're seeing coaches talking about, having the right mix, the balance between student athletes coming out of high school and then for the transfer portal. Also, another point that someone brought up to me, that if you look at, or when you look at the transfer portal, I know specifically I look at everybody, but specifically Southern University, and a lot of their student athletes in football and women's basketball, those athletes they're bringing in, and here's a key point, they're either redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomore. So what does that mean? They have still 3-4 years of eligibility, 4 years in most cases. So, you do your homework, you look at the character and on and off the field, and then you got a chance to have them on in your program for 4 years, Charles. So, a lot of teams did complete overhauls. Teams that come to mind: Alabama A&M this year, Jackson State continuously overhauls their roster, and that has worked for them. By having the championship this past year. But I tell you what, they know this. You know this. Everybody that's watching knows this. They will be the hunted. They will get, I believe, everybody's best game when they play. And so now that leads me to this. Last time we talked, Charles, we talked about who has the most pressure. And my blood pressure went up when you said Coach Eric Dooley. You remember that discussion we had? And then I said, well, y'all notice you didn't put McNair on that list. But if you look at it, all of the football coaches, they have pressure to win. I'll let you, in a second, revisit that. And do you want to change up or you still want to go with that? But also, I got a message about the Bayou Classic. And where's it going to be carried at live on? From everything that I'm hearing, and I talked to Coach Banks when I saw him this past week. They're waiting for an announcement to come out because, of course, that's Southern, not only Southern, but Grambling has to sign off on it. So they're trying to wrap that up. But from everything that I'm hearing, my gut feeling is I believe it's going to be back on NBC. And that's important because NBC Sports Network, they dissolved. And I'm willing to bet, without looking at the numbers, the viewership will go up. Just my opinion, not a fact. Opinion, because I think there are more NBC, the network, the regular network, in households than NBC Sports Network. So,
yep, I'm glad that that's happened. You know, I mean, the NBC Sports Network going away. Obviously tough financial decisions have to be made, especially with all these networks. So obviously that's something that they decided wasn't worth keeping. But I'm glad to see it back on the NBC. I think,
now that's what I'm hearing now.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I do think that if I were to bet, I would probably say that's probably going to happen. It's just a matter of crossing I's and dotting I's and crossing T's. I think that probably will happen. Just my prediction, and I think that would be a great move, bringing it back to NBC. That's a network everybody gets, and you have more eyes watching. And who knows, that game could be for the Western Division. You got 2 new coaches, a lot of talk. So that, I think, if that happens, I think it will be great for the Bayou Classic, great for NBC, great for Southern and Grambling.
Well, and with this past season and all the things from a recruiting standpoint, players that committed to Southern then got flipped and went to Grambling State, it's just add even more spice to this Bayou Classic. 2 new coaches, one new to the conference in Hugh Jackson. Now, previously last year he was at Tennessee State, head coach of the Cleveland Browns. That's where most people know him from. Coach Dooley, of course, new coach, but not new to Southern University, not new to the conference. So that Bayou Classic, I think it's going to be a barn burner, just in my opinion. If both teams come in with records, positive records, and they have a chance to win it, represent the West at the game in the past, that's how it's come down to. Albeit that is the goal. We'll have to see if that happens. But it's going to be a huge ball game. Then you kind of look at some of the other big games. Of course, the Magic City Classic will be big this year. Also, Southern at Jackson State. That's going to be huge, October the 29th. Just a lot of excitement. Charles, a lot of fans are, hey, they're excited. Some fans, they're looking at their institution. How can their football program, how can they get better? Just interacting with a lot of people on social media. They're really excited about this upcoming season. Now, back to it, Charles. Once again, who's under the most pressure to win a SWAC football championship this year?
I'm gonna stick with my prediction. I'm gonna stick with what I have, and let me give my opinion on the whole McNair thing. When you won 6 out of the last 7 division titles, your first year in the West, that transition. I know in fandom it doesn't matter what you've done, but when you accomplish what the Braves accomplished 6 of the last 7 years, no, you don't get it done this year. I'm going to say going into this year that the pressure is not there. There's a little bit of pressure, but not just tremendous pressure. And there's pressure on every coach every year. But to sit here and say that if McNair doesn't get it done this year, then something should happen. And you've won 6 out of the last 7 division titles. If you don't get it done 6 out of 8, does that necessarily necessitate a change at the top? No, it doesn't.
No, Charles.
Now,
Wait a minute. Who said that? No, I'm just saying.
well, I mean, there are some people
pressure.
out there that there are some people that I've talked to that believes that Coach McNair's under a lot of heat, and I'm like, why? You don't look at what he's done, and the answer is yeah, but we're all about in the here and now in fandom. What you've done, what you did in the last 6 or 7 years, and I think it's because what we talked about earlier, what Jackson State and Coach Sanders have been able to do in 18 months. He's been on the job 18 months, roughly 19 months, whatever it is, somewhere around there. And you see what he's done. SWAC championship, Eastern Division, improvements in the facilities, improvements in the football program, the attention, the Sports Illustrated stuff. So now people are looking at that and saying, you know, I love my school, but what are we doing? Are we going to be in that category? Now, for the West, I think it's a little bit more wide open, as we've talked about. I do think if the Braves, whatever quarterback that's going to be, I think our defense is going to be improved, especially on the back end with Cedric Thomas coming back. Obviously, we got whoever the quarterback's going to be. It's going to be a tough schedule. It's going to be some growing pains, and you got to have some patience. I think that's the other thing that we haven't really talked about. You got to be patient. All these teams with all these new pieces and new coaches, the word patience is a key word here. And I know fans don't have patience nowadays, but you got to have it. You got to have it. And I think if you don't, then you're going to wind up regretting it on the back end of it, because then you might pull the plug. A plug might be pulled too quickly. And I know that's just the way the world we're in right now, but that's just how I feel about it. So I don't think for Coach McNair, in my opinion, and some of this may be personal because I know him well, I don't think the pressure is there. I just don't. You got an AD in Renoy Dedeaux. I've spoken with him. He is very fond of Coach McNair. They have conversations all the time since he's been there, 2.5 months. I think Coach McNair is fine. I think the anxiety for Braves fans for the first time in 5 years, we don't know who our quarterback's going to be. I think that's what's driving a lot of this anxiety. We got some good talent on the roster. It's just a matter of getting them on the field, whoever that person is, and getting them acclimated. It's going to be a tough start with Tulane and McNeese and Stephen F. right off the bat. It's going to be tough, but I think we have to exercise patience, and I hope fans do have patience. And I just don't see Coach McNair at this point in time being on the hot seat, not with that type of pressure right now, based on what he's done. Now, a lot of people might disagree because it's all about the here and now, what we didn't do last year. But teams do not have good years. And just because you have one bad year, or maybe even 2 bad years, you're going to discount the last 6 previous to that? I hope not. But that's just Charles Edmond's opinion. I know everyone is kind of anxious because of what Jackson State has done. And they feel like if we don't stay in the race, you're never going to catch up. I get that. And they're going 80 miles an hour now. Jackson's going 80 miles an hour, what they're doing and all the exposure and the winning and the Sports Illustrated and all that other stuff. They're going at a really, really fast clip. But I do think that you still have to stick with what's been done. And I think you have to give Coach the benefit of the doubt. I do believe he'll fix it. Whatever problems that we've had, they'll be fixed, they'll be addressed. And I think the Braves will be right there in a very uncertain Western Division, because you don't know what's going to happen. Hugh Jackson, you don't know what their quarterback situation is looking like. Coach Dooley, everybody knows what he did at Prairie View. I think that's the only known commodity. Everything else, you don't know what Doc Gamble's got at UAPB. Is Body going to be better at Texas Southern? Prairie View with a new coach, a new system. You don't know how that's going to go. So I do think the West is up for grabs. It could be anybody's race. And I think if the Braves get good, solid quarterback play, we got a good stable of running backs led by Nico Duffy. We've got a Syracuse transfer who I think is going to be pretty good. The Braves could very well come out of that, and then we won't even be having this conversation.
Well, the question is, who is on the most pressure? So you are stating again, that McNair would not be on that list. And
No.
I say he should be, just because of some of the things you've said. Much is given, much is expected. The division titles, the SWAC championships, first year in the Western Division, a subpar season. Not that he should be let go. And for those who you've talked to, that's all Corn Knights that said, well, if another bad season, he should go. No, that's foolish. I don't agree with that. But I would put him on that list, and I wouldn't per se put him number one, but he would be on that list. I think Jackson State, Coach Sanders, he's going to be on the pressure because of what he's done so quickly. All of the grades that he is getting. And it's strictly not totally because of him, but because of him, if you get my drift.
Right.
And hey, the way they're, if it's based on social media and their fans, they believe that they can go undefeated. If not, they strongly believe that they'll win it again. So I think he's going to be under pressure. Coach Dooley at Southern University got to the championship last year with a Prairie View team. Now coming back to Southern University, where he has a lot of history, I would put him on that list. Just to be honest with you. And they are trying to win now. They have stated, coaches on the staff, that they don't have a grace period.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason, if it's because of Jackson State or what have you, but I think it's pressure to win on all the coaches. What about Maynard and Alabama A&M? I don't know if he's still recovering from that beating. They won it in the spring. But guess what? I've talked to coaches in this conference that said the spring was an illusion for a lot of you fans. That wasn't the real deal, but hey, they won it.
Yeah.
What does he do? Then that fall season with a tremendous quarterback in an offensive system, they got pistol whipped. Excuse my French, against Jackson State. I don't think they've been the same since then. What did they do? They turned over their whole team. You're shaking your head. You don't believe that Maynard is under pressure? I disagree.
I don't.
Wait a minute. Why not?
I think when you look at that program, because they had, prior to the spring season, they had not had any success in terms of winning at a high level. Yes, they did win the championship, and I'm sorry. I'm just gonna, for me, this is my opinion. I think the spring championship, it's still a championship, just like the Lakers winning it in the bowl. Some people feel like that wasn't the real deal. I'm sorry. You win a championship, spring, half a season, however way it goes down, you win a championship, you win a championship. So yes, they won the championship. But you got one of the most dynamic passers in the history of this league, and Aqeel Glass, he's not there. There's going to be some growing pains. I think people are not factoring that in all the way. Aqeel Glass took 99.9% of the snaps, just like Felix Harper took 99.9% of the snaps, 100% of the snaps. So when you don't have a situation where we've had, where you had a Noah Johnson coming in for Gibbs, you had a Felix Harper coming in for Noah Johnson, they were kind of already in the flow, but you don't have that. So now I wouldn't say you're starting over, but you're kind of retooling that position. That takes some time. Now, could it happen immediately? Yes. But the reality is probably not. So let's just, again, take a deep breath and have a little patience with this. I think with Dooley, because he's a Louisiana guy and because he won at Prairie View, if instead of Eric Dooley, the head coach, if it was Eric Edmond, I don't think there would be the pressure, because he's coming in cold. He doesn't have that recognition. But because he's Eric Dooley, because he won a championship at Prairie View, there's an immediate assumption that he's going to immediately step in at Southern University, pick up right where he left off at Prairie View.
Charles, he didn't win a championship at Prairie View.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of his success. I think Southern would take the success that Dooley had at Prairie View in his last year, getting in the SWAC championship game. Okay? Getting there. Yes, Jackson State.
Wait a minute, Charles. Coach Odom, wait a minute. Coach Odom's got to the championship 2 years in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to take my hat off on that one. He had pressure.
I think because
you're saying Dooley has pressure and Coach McNair not. I disagree. I said Dooley has pressure. But you're saying, as I put my hat back on, you're saying that McNair is not under any pressure. It's not about firing anybody, but I just can't see it. Maynard, Coach Sanders. Well, you agree with Coach Sanders? Is he under pressure?
He's under some pressure, But
you don't sound
confident.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean he's under some pressure, but to answer your question, yes, there's some pressure because he's won right away, and the expectation is that he's got to stay at that high level. Yes, there's pressure. Yes.
Because we're running out of time here. Anybody else? Who's your list? Who's your coaches that are under pressure? I know you said Dooley, and I think you got Dooley number one. And I did say that he's under pressure, but my goodness, it's interesting you got him right on the bat at number one.
I just think because of the familiarity, I think he's back home. I think because he's familiar with the SWAC, I think there's an expectation there because of the Jaguar Nation and all that. Again, if it was Eric Jones as the head coach, someone that no one is familiar with, I don't think the pressure would be there. I do think McNair is under some pressure. There's no doubt about it. But I'm looking at the bigger picture in terms of what he's done. I know people might not care in terms of what he's done. For the first time in 5 years, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I think that reserves a little bit taking of a deep breath because you don't know. It could work out. It could be great. It might not. We don't know. So that's why I'm saying that you have to look at the fact that give Coach McNair an opportunity to figure it out. I think he will. Whoever the quarterback's going to be, kid from Tech, got a couple other quarterbacks. I think just this anxiety is there because of what Jackson State has done, our number one rival. I mean, just accelerating the process. And I think people feel like, what are we doing? What are we not doing? Instead of just stepping back for a minute and just saying, okay, we got some new pieces, especially the quarterback position. Let's allow that to work. Southern has the same thing. We keep talking about Bubba McDaniel. We don't know the JUCO, the kid from Hines, who could be the new quarterback. A lot of people feel like that's the case at Southern. It could very well work, but it might not. So, but I think because it's the Jaguar Nation, I think because of familiarity, people just assume that he's going to get it done right away when I know that there's a possibility it doesn't. But if it doesn't at Southern University, people are going to say, well, this might not be the best hire. But it's just the pressure of the fans and the program. For me, I'm looking at the past. And I might be wrong for that, but I think Fred McNair will figure it out. And I think people are just a little anxious right now because of what Jackson State is doing and some of the other programs are doing. That's just my opinion. And I'm just taking a slow roll approach. I might be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll come on your show and say I'm wrong. I think.
Well, don't worry. I'll let you know. I'll let you know about it. You know, I won't let you live that one down.
Right.
But as we close, what's unique to Alcorn is not unique to other teams. They're trying to break in quarterbacks. We talked about the quarterbacks that are coming back. That Shedeur Sanders being one. Body at Texas Southern. So, but the majority of the teams, they have that pressure to find a quarterback. We haven't mentioned Hugh Jackson. I really believe he's under a lot of pressure at Grambling State University.
I think he's under a lot of pressure because of some of the other stuff. If there was a quiet off season, if you didn't have the Brile situation and this other stuff going on, and as a Grambling night, I'll say this: if it wasn't for all that other stuff, I would say that Hugh Jackson probably wouldn't be. I think obviously taking over for what the previous coach did, what Fobbs. I mean, some people feel like a change should have been made. I disagree. I think Fobbs should have been given another year, but that's neither here nor there. I think the other stuff is causing the pressure on Hugh Jackson. If the Brile stuff didn't come up, I do think that people would say, okay, well, Grambling is going to take a little time there. There wouldn't be pressure. You got a new AD there. So I just think the other stuff is what's causing the pressure at Grambling, not necessarily, anything else.
Well, I think, he coached in the NFL, whatever that means. I don't think that's going to help him as far as being on the field. It might help him in recruiting, because some people that will attract them to being an ex-NFL coach. Grambling, where everybody's somebody, there's automatic pressure there, regardless, whoever the coach is. And I agree about Fobbs. Hopefully he will resurface somewhere else. I know he's working at Ruston High School. He deserves better. Look what he's done. So, with the pressure and talking about it, a lot of it is based on one of the criteria is what they've done. You can include the fan base. I think you said there's pressure. They're talking in the chat room about it now. Now, if you say there's more pressure from the fan base from Southern and Jackson State and Grambling, I would agree with that. But then Alcorn fans are not chopped liver as well. No. I mean, they're not chopped liver. No. I saw them in the Celebration Bowl and how they really respond in the SWAC championship. So let's not forget about that. But Dooley, Maynard, Jackson, Sanders, and McNair, I would put them on the list. And that does not mean that they will get fired. Pressure to leave is just simply stating that who has the most pressure.
I would take Maynard off that list. I don't think Maynard's under any pressure.
No.
I don't.
I'm putting McNair. I'm putting McNair close to the top, and I can understand why you're saying McNair not, but then just a little bit, and then Dooley, no. But folks, we're gonna have to end the show. Me and Charles is not gonna agree on this, apparently. Okay. But you guys can continue the discussion and send me a message. I know some of you will disagree with how I feel about this situation, but it was just something to talk about again. Who's under the most pressure? And guess what? I don't have the blue and gold glasses on. Huh? However, some of you out there, you may have those colored glasses on. That's all right. But I'm going to be consistent. That's who I have on my list. They have the most pressure. Charles, you're going to have to work on that list, buddy. Unbelievable. I just can't. I had to take my hat off when you said McNair, compare McNair to Coach Dooley. Unbelievable. Want to thank all of the guests on today's show, Charles Edmond, Coach Vann Pettaway. Am I missing somebody as far as the guests? Charles, Coach Pettaway. BJ, we had an issue. We'll reschedule for next week. Melody Edwards producing today's show, and everybody who tuned in. We appreciate you. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next time, as always, peace and God bless.